Hey, welcome back to PI Sources, the post-industrial media podcast about news and how the news is made. We have a very special guest this week, my good friend Zubair Babakarkhail. He hails from Afghanistan and is living in the U.S. now. Zubair is a longtime journalist who's covered the war in Afghanistan for decades. He lived through the experience of fleeing the country with his family, and he's now based here in the Pittsburgh area, where he's continuing his work as a journalist and helping others like him adjust to a new life in America. Take a listen. Are we good? All right. Man, thank you so much for joining me on the new podcast we've got going here, PI Sources. Appreciate it.
You're most welcome. Thanks for having me.
You're so formal. You can take it down a notch. This is not like our other podcasts where we're trying to get to the heart of a matter of a specific issue. This is more along the lines of trying to figure out what it is that journalists do, how they do their jobs, and what it is that the challenges they face doing that work in these challenging days. You know, this is a really hard time to be a journalist in America, but clearly you've dealt with a hell of a lot worse working in Afghanistan. Just to give people some context, tell folks a little bit about the work you were doing in Afghanistan before the Taliban took over the country.
Yeah, the work was not overall not an easy job. It was covering the war, most of the times like involved in action and like covering the action, and so definitely you have to be like concerned and fearful that anything can happen anytime. So life over there was in danger. Plus, reporting was more putting you like in danger. So every day while we used to leave home for work, like sometimes like that was the only word we would hear from my mom when she was alive, and then from my wife: be careful, watch out after yourself. So that was the last word I would hear before leaving the house. So it was not easy covering the war and talking to people who lived in a war. It's not an easy thing because the mentality is not like a peaceful mentality. Sometimes you just like ask a random question someone and he would be very rude to you sometimes, because the war mentality, people who grew up in the war, it's definitely different than here. So it was not an easy thing to do.
You know what? Just to give, again, further context to people who are listening and watching, you and I worked together in Afghanistan years ago, and that was at a time when I didn't have a family. I didn't have a daughter, and so I didn't have those concerns as it pertained to my safety and the welfare of another person. You were the only person, I think, during that period that I knew that had children, and I never really thought about how that affected you and your work, and, you know, compounded by the fact that this is not a story that you're coming to visit like I would go and everyone else, but this was your country. Mm-hmm. So it was definitely, you're dealing with a set of circumstances as a journalist in Afghanistan that I couldn't even imagine. I knew what they were as an abstract, but obviously there were other challenges, not just the danger, but the danger to your family and to their, you know, potentially risking their future if something happened to you. On top of all that, that's your country. That's seeing your country go through such a terrible hardship. What's it like to cover that kind of conflict and despair when it's in your home?
Yeah, definitely. Like, just remind me if I missed to answer part of your question. But like,
sorry, I didn't mean to compound it with so many different things. But no, what is it? What's it like when it's your home?
So in overall, like, it was different in different times. When I started as a journalist, my career, it was 2004. I was not married, so I would like spend days in the office. I would sleep in the office and like report till late, you know. But after I got married, I decreased my working hours. But still, when I became a father, then I was concerned more than before, because I wasn't that like fearful before. But after I had kids and I was still covering the same thing, but I would like become more concerned if something happens, what will happen to my kids, what will happen to my wife. But still, I was trying to be committed. Not about my family and only my kids. I saw the death of my friends, journalists, to whom I used to work and meet on daily basis. I saw them dying. I saw them getting wounded. So, but still, I was committed because in Afghanistan, media was, I would say, mainly independent, and people would respect the media a lot. That was a very much encouraging point. So I was trying to remain in that field and be a journalist, no matter what happens, to go on.
You know what would always infuriate me? Anytime I would come back from a trip to Afghanistan, people here in America would say, "We never see anything about Afghanistan in the paper. Where's the news about Afghanistan?" And I would think to myself, son of a bitch, there are hundreds of stories that come out every single day. I'm sorry I can't force feed you into reading them, right? Constantly. And the fact of the matter is, as you stated, there actually is a robust local media presence in Afghanistan, at least before the Taliban. There were new outlets that came about for television, online. There were a lot of journalists around at a certain point. However, by the time that the Taliban took over, a lot of journalists had left. You went from being just somebody covering the war and telling other people's stories to becoming a part of the story when the Taliban took over or was taking over and the U.S. was pulling out. Tell people a little bit about what had happened to you.
Okay, so yeah, first about that part when people were still not like listening or getting the news from Afghanistan, probably it's because outside of Afghanistan, people are more like putting attention to more like celebrities type news, film industry news, affairs, like, or the courts news. So if you Google like those stories about Afghanistan, nothing will show up,
Well, I mean, you can
war.
find those stories.
Yeah.
There are plenty of stories,
Yeah.
but you have to actually look for them. They're not going to be the
Yeah.
first thing you see on television or the top of your paper.
Yeah, or probably all of those stories were from war, so people were tired of war story, and they
That's
would
true.
say, we don't see any news, like a different news from there. So that's first. And the second thing is, yeah, it was really like hard for me to cover Afghanistan, tell stories, and then become a story at the end, and leave your country in a way that no one wanted, and none of my family. Still, my wife tells me, I dream the day when I go back and leave Afghanistan back to America properly, in a proper manner, not like that. Like, no one deserved like to leave the country that way, especially me, because I tried to help my country, tried to help my people. I even gave a voice to those who captured Kabul and I was forced to leave. I always gave a voice to those. On every story, when it was like a story where the Taliban and the government was involved in that, I used to contact them and ask them and give them a voice. But finally, I had to flee because of them. So it was really hard for me that I was getting interviewed and answering questions about my safety, about my life, about how in danger I was, how I feel like those days, which was like 10 days. The collapse happened on August 15 last year, and I was able to flee the country on August 25. But those 10 days were like years for me. It was like a books of like so many pages, for me, because so many things happened in those days. I was talking to media, I was talking to my friends in the US and elsewhere. I had to be safe and keep my family safe from being watched or by the Taliban or something. So it was very difficult.
Those days of which you speak, I recall them as well because you mentioned the folks that were helping you during those terrible times. I mean, we were all uh, holding our breath and worried to death about what was going to happen, to you. And let's be honest, particularly your children, because they're more important than you are, right?
Yeah,
Our
yeah,
children are
yeah,
more important than we
yeah,
are.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
we
yeah.
are of the last concern
Yeah,
when
they
it
have
was
a future, and now we lived it. Somehow we lived some years.
right. We've already, our time is, I feel like
Yeah,
in a certain way is not
yeah.
coming past, but we work in service for them.
Mm-hmm.
So, the fact that your children were in jeopardy, and your wife, obviously, who's since had another child, you're now the proud father of four. Um, to me, was a situation that I couldn't comprehend. No matter, even though I was in the moment dealing with it, trying to help you as best I could, as best any of us could, there's still no way I could fully comprehend what it was like to be in a situation where not only your life is in danger, but the lives of your wife and your children. That point your wife made about wanting to go back so she could leave properly, is that a sentiment that you share?
Well, I don't. This is the first time I'm telling you, but I also share the same sentiment. Like the same. I I hope I got your question correctly, but correct me if, like, do you mean like if I feel the same as my
Yeah,
wife
do you feel
feel?
the same way, and do you feel as though, you have a yearning to go back, even though you'd face such terrible threats to yourself and to your family? Do you still have that conflicted feeling? Because, like I said, I couldn't understand it, and I can't understand even more the fact that she says, well, I want to go back.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Again, I can't understand that.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel the same
Okay.
because after I fled, after I came to America, I kept posting some stuff on my Facebook, um, like about the same, like this discrimination going on in Afghanistan, the massacres, what mass killings, sorry, the mass killings out there and assassinations. And then I saw that some people threatened me on Facebook saying, you're are you not coming back to Afghanistan? Asking me. So that means that I'm still, what I feel that I'm doing nothing wrong. I'm just like posting my what I think and what people are doing wrong. So my wife is thinking the same. We had done nothing wrong in the past. We should have left the country in a proper way. It looked like we are just escaping that. We are like escaping the prosecution or something. So that's how I also feel. So after I got threatened by these people. After that, I started, I wish there is some kind of like a system that the government of the US or some other government send me as a like whatever in the United Nations staff or like as a diplomat, whatever that I can show to those people that I'm here now. You were telling me if you like it looks like you are not thinking of coming back to Afghanistan, but I went there with more power, with more respect, that the Taliban will respect me as a something, like as a delegation member or anything, like a UN worker, So I wished I could get that opportunity, to go back like that way.
I hear what you're saying, and I comprehend the words. Again, I don't I can never understand it, because, like I
Yeah.
said, I've never been through that kind of situation. What my comprehension and my experience in Afghanistan is nothing compared to yours. They're very different in that sense. I'm trying to put it in the context of, let's say something similar happened in the United States, and I became a person who the new government was threatening to kill. I don't think I'd ever want to go back.
Yeah, definitely. For you, it's easy, but not for me because we lived there. We have relatives. We have a tribe. We
Right.
have a village. We have a house. I had my career out there, so I want to show to the people that I'm not someone who did something like wrong when it comes to any laws or something. Even if I sit with the Taliban, I can tell them prove to me what I did wrong. When I was reporting, I was giving you a voice as a reporter. So so I want to show to them that like whatever I have done in my life in journalism, it was not wrong, and I still believe on that. So I want to show them that like I'm not scared or afraid of these things.
That I can understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I get. Now that you're here, though, in the U.S., you're working and you're doing some reporting. You've done some stories for Postindustrial. You chronicled your time from leaving Afghanistan to the time you spent at a U.S. Military base in Wisconsin and now back here in the Pittsburgh area. What kind of reporting do you want to do moving forward? What would you like to do now that you're settled here with your family? And
Yeah, when I was in Afghanistan, I always uh, used to meet like journalists from around the world, and I used to tell them, oh, I wish that one day I also report on something else, report about sports, report about science, or celebrities or their affairs and stuff.
so you
or
want to be a celebrity. So you want to get the big clicks.
Yeah,
All the
like-
clicks that weren't going to Afghanistan stories. You
Yeah.
want celebrity gossip clicks for yourself. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what
I want those kind of clicks too.
I was
I'd love that.
influenced. I was influenced by the Bollywood,
Oh yeah,
reporting.
sure. Okay.
Like the affairs between the Bollywood celebrities, and I
sure.
would read that. So yeah, I mean like those type of shit,
Oh, so you want to get paid well for a living, for a
Maybe.
change.
Yeah, and also report and also enjoy your time with the celebrities.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So do a little schmoozing, have a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. I would.
Yeah.
I can definitely see that after a
mean-
lifetime spent covering hardships and
Yeah,
war
like-
at home.
Yeah, over there we would see like guns and the faces of the like Taliban, like long beards and turbans. But in here you can meet celebrities and talk to them and like have fun and then make money. So,
Okay. Well, you know what? If we ever get to the point at Postindustrial where we're covering the celebrity beat in our region, then for sure we'll
Yeah.
put you on that.
I'll take that.
Yeah, but in the meantime, I thought it would be interesting if you would do stories, and I know I've brought this up to you in the past, about how, perhaps your experience being unique to a lot of people here in the U.S., you might have some shared experiences with other people who have arrived from places that were facing troubles. And I thought it'd be interesting to get you in the room talking to and interviewing people who maybe came from Syria, who came from Iraq, or came from a place like El Salvador or Haiti, just because I feel like perhaps it's not as glitzy and glamorous as covering celebrities, but you do have so much shared history in a sense of overcoming and having gone through hardships that I think that it would make you uniquely qualified to understand those people and those types of stories.
Yeah, definitely. I want to see my story in people's stories, and I want to see my face in people's faces. And because I know there are people coming from elsewhere, from everywhere to the United States who shares the same stories. They had to flee, like I fled the war. There are people who fled like the crimes or mafias or drug dealers or several other problems that they had. So definitely I want to work on that. Plus, like I remember when there was a riot on the Capitol Hill, and I still can't believe it how that happened. Like in a place like in America, in a peaceful country, why people can think of those kind of activities. And I hear that, and I read that there are still in America there are some groups who are picking up guns and fighting for their rights, which is completely a nonsense for me. Completely, because we have seen the result of picking guns and taking guns and fighting for your rights or whatever you think of. Afghanistan was a victim of such things in the last 45 years. It's not going to work. And I believe that when you pick a gun and fight for your rights, what happens when the government sends forces to stop you and to tells you this is illegal? Are you going to kill your own forces and other humans? So at the end of the day, all these people will be regretting nothing else.
That's interesting. That's a question that I've brought up many times to other reporters who have covered that beat on, right-wing extremism or these so-called patriot movement groups like the Patriotic Front, the Three Percenters, the rest of these folks. And I ask, do these people profess to have the will to kill a police officer or to kill a soldier? And to me, they don't often come up with a straight answer, but you're right. The fact of the
No,
matter
believe
is,
me, let me tell you, if they pick a gun, even if they don't want, there will be a time that they will be forced to pull the trigger. You know, even if I don't want, but I lived with my gun the whole time somewhere with my other comrades or like group members, and spend time in fighting for my rights, and then finally I face someone who is against me. Even if I don't want to kill a human, that time they will have to pull the trigger, because they will think it's a shame or whatever they will think, but they will be forced, and then finally they will be regretting, because I've seen people from different parties and groups and jihadis and communists in Afghanistan, everyone now they are regretting nothing. They earned nothing in life.
well, that's just it. Like, for example, the Taliban, they spent decades trying to regain power. Now they're back in power, and I don't think they adequately know what to do with this power. They know how to pursue it, but do they? Obviously, you're in touch with people there on the ground intimately. You're talking to folks all the time, and family included. The country's in disarray. They don't know how to run a country.
Yes, definitely. I agree, because now they know. Now they know that gun is nothing, or the power which is won by the gun is nothing. It doesn't give them anything. No country recognizes them right now. No country has political relations with them right now. Their economy is dying. There is no jobs in Afghanistan. People are starving. So all the problems are there. And now the Taliban plus, they introduced suicide bombings, and now there are like other suicide bombers who are targeting them from ISIS or other groups. So they are a victim of the suicide bombings right now in Afghanistan, and people are asking them right now, okay, tell me what attack will you name this right now? You used to call it fidai, like a person who sacrifices his life and goes to the heaven. Now this person also sacrifices his life and goes to whatever they think. But what you call it right now? So, and they don't have any answer for that.
And they never will have an adequate answer.
Yeah.
That's I hope for the best for Afghanistan, but I'm bracing myself for the worst, particularly as the winter approaches. It's gonna be another tough winter for them.
Yeah.
If they're now that they're fully isolated from the rest of the world. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you're here. And you came at a time when a number of Afghan families came to this area, and you are, in addition to your journalism, you're working with other Afghans and other immigrant groups here. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so after I arrived, I had a little bit time to help Afghans because many Afghans arrived here and they are coming from different parts of Afghanistan. So some of them didn't go to school like a day in Afghanistan. They don't know the language. They don't know how the system works here, even like commuting or using the buses here or other technologies. So I had some time to help them and with interpretation or going with them on the bus and teaching them how the buses work here, where you get like your bus pass from, how you use like if you want to order some food online or like on some app, how you do that, how you get an Uber in an emergency time. So all those things. Plus, the culture is different here. What people wear here is a little bit different than what people wear in Afghanistan. So especially the women who arrived here, they needed traditional clothings from Afghanistan or Asian type. So we tried to ask around and ask Pakistani communities here in Pittsburgh. So they donated and we were able to distribute that. That's when the resettlement agency JFCS saw my activities and offered me this job as a cultural navigator. They were telling me, what are you doing right now is like, we want you to do the same for us, being paid. And I took that job, and I'm doing the same thing with the Afghans right now.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
You're also involved in a little bit of a nonprofit organization as well that a group of us helped get together, and we named after you, called Team Zubair.
Yeah.
TeamZubair.org, folks. Check that out. When we'll have information for you in the description.
Yeah.
But tell a little bit about what it is that Team Zubair is doing and what you hope to do with it in the future.
Well, like you, 1 hour before, when I went to pick up my kids from the school, I saw someone, and I was talking to her, and proudly I told her that like, after telling her all my story, and finally I said, now I'm part of like a Team Zubair. We are helping other Afghans with whatever we could. We are not that big, having a big budget or like funds, but we were able to help a few families in Utah with the housing or buying cars, like paying some of their down payment, or if they have like rent issues, we help them. Plus, in Pittsburgh, we were able to send food packages to Afghans on special days, especially on Martin Luther King Day. We spent gifts and packages to Afghans. Plus, we started another project, which is down payment for those who has a driving license and wants to buy a car. We can help them with at least maximum $2,000 per person, and we already approved a few people, and we gave them the fundings for their cars. Even today, there are some checks on the way to some people for their down payments of their cars. So it's great. I feel proud of it.
That is great. You're helping people get a leg up who've actually, gone through so much before even arriving on American shores. Like you mentioned, not knowing the language, not knowing the culture, that's a lot to navigate. And then helping them get settled is you're doing amazing work.
Thank you.
But let me ask you this: how are you adjusting? It's been a year now since you left Afghanistan. It's been almost a year that you've been here in the Pittsburgh area. How's it going?
So for me, it was a little bit easier than the rest of my family members. I was in the U.S. before in 2008, and I had an idea of this country from before. But for my wife, she has been to school in Afghanistan, but she still doesn't speak English, so it's really hard for her. She's still finding it hard to adjust with because there are so many things. When I said bus training, she still is not able. Even I tell her, let's go one day on the bus, that you should learn. She says, give me some time, I will learn. And now we have a baby, so for me it was easy. For my kids, it was really hard at the beginning. When we arrived in the US, the first days when
Just tell people how old your kids are.
Okay, my son is 13,
Right.
and my other daughter is 10.
Mm-hmm.
The other daughter is 7, and we have a newly born in America. She is 4 months old. So my 3 other kids came with us from Afghanistan, when I used to make a call back to Afghanistan, talk to my brother, and FaceTiming with them, my little daughter, the 7 years old, she would come to see them, and after giving a glance to the screen and watching the cousins, she would remain mute. She was unable to talk, even to answer questions when my brother used to ask her, and she would just like feel kind of,
Why is that?
because missing them, missing the
Yeah.
cousins and being far away from them and seeing them on the screen of their like phone or tablet. She would just like become kind of, depressed or sad, you call it. So, and we would tell her, come on, talk to your uncle, and she would go back and just lay on her bed. it was really tired. But thanks to like my friends here who gave me always like good advices and suggestions and directions, and they supported me a lot. Plus the resettlement agency, they put my kids in the school, and now they're used to school. They are going to school, and they're kind of like adjusted here.
Yeah. Well, children do better than adults in adjusting. In a lot of ways, they're more resilient than we are, or they're stronger, or they're less beaten down by life.
Yeah.
They can adjust in ways that we can't, and it takes us longer. You mentioned your wife having trouble still adjusting, and that's going to take some time.
Yeah. No, I mean, when it comes to me, like I went to watch games, like baseball games a few times. I went like a little far from Pittsburgh to see places. I'm planning to go with my family and see Niagara Falls at some point. I was able to drive to Virginia, meet my friends, and I'm happy that I got a car. And so, yeah, I mean, I've seen so many places. Even like I was talking to a Pittsburgher the other day, and I told him like we've been to Twin Lakes Park the other day with my family, and he said, "Where is that place?"
I didn't know. You had to tell me. I didn't know where it was either.
And that person was telling me that he grew up here. So I mean, I feel that I've seen a lot of places so far in 1 year.
Well, that's what makes you, I think, a valuable addition to the community, and not only to the community at large, but to our post-industrial writing community, because you could see things with fresh eyes that I don't, and that other people don't, because we're so used to it, or we've seen it a million times. We don't see what's unique or special about it, where in ways that you can, and that's why your insight is valuable, and that's why we need you to do more writing for us.
That's, like one day we went to Shenley Park, me, my wife, and our kids. We brought some tea with us, some cookies, and we were having our good time out there, and I saw these retired gentlemen playing volleyball. All of them were like as young as 60s and as young as 70s.
Playing volleyball.
Yeah,
right
playing
on.
Volleyball.
Yeah.
And I put attention to them, and like I was like focusing on each person's like body language and how they walk, how they like act. And every one of them had a very interesting character, body language. And I just told my wife, I want to go close to them and see them. So I went and I watched for like 1 minute, and then they invited me if I want to join volleyball. That was the greatest opportunity for me to be with them, and like every gentleman, the lady, everyone was like, I had such a great time. Just like I didn't enjoy the volleyball that much as I looked at them and like how they walked and how like they would like hit the ball with their hands, like different ways, and walking, different way of walking, different way of talking, and making fun, making jokes. So it was amazing.
I mean, that's great that you could get appreciation from that. And like, again, the what we consider to be the everyday and the mundane is a new experience for you. And as such, you could show us a new something to something old that we've already experienced time and time again.
Sure.
Thanks for coming on to share your experiences with us here and let people know about all the wonderful work you're doing. Hope to have you come back again sometime soon, and after you've done more good work for us at Postindustrial. Sound good?
Sure. Thanks for having me here.
My pleasure. I want to thank Zubair for joining me on PI Sources, and I want to thank you for listening. For more information about this and other Postindustrial podcasts, go to postindustrial.com. Thanks again, and see you again soon.
This podcast was produced in partnership with Postindustrial Media. Postindustrial covers people, culture, and ideas for post-industrial communities around the world. Visit postindustrial.com to learn how you can join the post-industrial community.